All right, let's try this again. My mic was acting up and a little fuzzy thing came off the top. And all right, whatever. Welcome back to the shop. We are trying to get these coilover mounts in place on the car. After staring at these brackets for a little bit, I decided I want to have a little more clearance for the springs. So we're going to move these brackets out a little bit. I figure there's two ways to move these brackets out. One is add spacers, and the other one is bend them. I'm choosing to bend them. Yeah, the spacers would probably work fine, but that just means more welds and more material and more cutting, and I don't want more layered up welds because every weld point is a heat affected zone, and more heat affected zones means more potential failure points, and those points will at the very least act different than all the material around them. So less is better. I know we're welding a ton on the front of this thing, but if we don't need it, then let's not do it. Now, I know this may look a little overkill in general, but like I said in the last video, I want to completely capture this frame, and then when it's tied into the roll cage, this front end will be rock solid and should handle big block torque without an issue. I really don't want to rip the front end off of this thing. I know that every piece I add to the front is extra weight, and I should be trying to minimize the front weight, but this is all for peace of mind. If you have a failure in the rear suspension, it can get a little exciting. Whereas a failure in the front can quickly become a big problem.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't safe. It's just perhaps not quite as safe as some of the other ones.
Why?
Well, some of them are built so the front doesn't fall off at all.
Well, wasn't this built so the front wouldn't fall off?
Well, obviously not.
How do you know?
Well, because the front fell off.
Making these work, getting the bends in there just right was a simple process. It just took a little time. I wanted to move each bracket out 1/4 of an inch, so I tried to pick the best spots to bend them, and then I just marked them up. I put them in the vise and I added a little bit of heat. I tried to work the torch back and forth until there was a dull orange glow following the flame across the plate, and then I'd give it a good thwack with a hammer. I intentionally overbent each one, and then I took it down to the anvil to take a bit of the angle out to get that offset right at 1/4 inch and get the faces as parallel as I could. I prefer this method when bending thicker materials with hand tools. It's easy to remove some of the bend with a hammer, even when the metal's cold. And that way I only have to heat the metal once. And really, I didn't heat it that much. Only one side saw any significant heat. And it's only to allow that side to stretch a little bit, and just makes it a lot easier to bend with the hammer in the vise and not break your vise off. They only need a little bit of cleanup. I could do a little more sanding on there to get some of the marks out, but now we can move over and mark the frame. Oh, and whatever oils and junk were on that vise, stuff that's built up over the years, smelled like vomit once you heated it up with the torch. And I think it'd be a good idea to give it a good cleaning, but that's for future me, not right now me. Once I got to the frame, I moved my lines over 1/4 inch from where they were originally, and double checked that the lines were vertical using my laser. Did I show you that laser? This is not an expensive laser, but it's one it's really useful. If you are doing chassis layout, just get yourself a laser, like a construction laser from a big box store. It makes things a lot easier if you want level and plumb. It makes a big difference. So once I got the frame, I moved the lines over, checked it with the laser, and then it took a couple days, and I finally got around to cutting the slots in the frame. First, I drilled a small hole, a 3/16 hole at the top of where I wanted my slots, and that was going to be my end point. It's easy to see when you're cutting. You're not looking for a scribe line or a Sharpie line, and it gives you a nice clean end to your slot. Unfortunately, as soon as I started cutting the frame, I realized it's much too loud to be doing this specific step at 5:30 in the morning. If you have family, you'll know. All right, it's going to have to wait until the weekend.
Now, while you only have to wait for a few seconds, I have a little bit of time to burn. So let's talk about my new hat. This is from the first run of merch from Man Candy's Customs, better known as Garage Fab here on YouTube. His channel just passed 100,000 subscribers, which is awesome, and he celebrated by releasing a small batch of merch on his own online store. I quickly went to order a hat and a sticker. There was slight issues. The stickers were sold out, and the hat, though listed as Flex Fit, was a large/extra large Flex Fit. Not a problem for me, but the hat was supposed to be for Mrs. Squirrel, and that didn't work out quite so nice. So, Mr. Garage Fab, if you happen to be watching this video, maybe put the sizes in your descriptions just to clear things up a little bit. Oh, and congratulations on passing 100,000 subscribers. You're on your way to much more than that. Oh, now I realize I probably cut a little too deep in here because this is radius. It's not like it's angled straight across here, but I think it'll be okay. Hoping, yep, we're getting really close. So I need to either take some weld off here or take this corner off, and then I will need to get under here and actually we're not at high enough yet. Let's get where we're gonna be. Yep. All right. So I'm hoping that I can use the file to clean this up and not the grinder, because I don't want to open that up any more than I need. This needs to come up a bit. We need to be a little higher, probably a little wider there. A little bit of finesse. We'll get there. Okay, here's where we're at. This one fits pretty good. In fact, it'll just sit there. Now, I think we have a tiny gap here, a tiny gap here. We'll tune that up just a little more. This one is pretty close too. This one actually fits better, but, or fits in a little farther, but I ground the slot a little wide. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to set these parallel and vertical. So parallel this way and parallel this way, and then make sure they're both vertical. Make sure this cross bolt is level, and we will probably tack these spots here, and then whatever we need to do at the bottom to true it up, we'll make those adjustments down there, because this cross member is sitting at like a 1/4 degree or maybe a 1/2 degree off of level, because the cross member had just a little bit of twist in it when I purchased it, and it was beyond my abilities to take that twist out because it's basically a box tube structure. So this is where we're at, and I'm pretty happy with that. I was hoping that this would be a little tighter, but you know how I said I was going to use the file over here and clean it up? I didn't do that. I had to take too much material out, and I just used the grinder. So then I just went at it with the grinder over here, and you can probably see I did not drill the hole at the top where I wanted the slot to end because I forgot. I finished this one up and I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's cut this. And I just cut into it, and I was like, oh, forgot the hole. That's how the squirrel brain works. Now, one other thing that I did, I think if you've ever seen these flap discs, they're freaking awesome. I used this to contour under here where this cross member bolts, or where it welds to the frame, because it was a little bumpy and I didn't want to remove a lot of material. I just wanted to true it up so it was a consistent protrusion from that joint. So just to avoid interference down at the bottom. So let's get this cleaned up here. We'll take the primer off. We will get this tacked into place, and then we will see what adjustments need to be done. Okay, one other thing that you probably couldn't see from the other camera view, we have a gap here. All right, I knew that was going to happen. I extended this edge out a little bit to help close that up, but we will just need to put a piece of round stock or square stock or something to fill that in, because I do want this tied in to the pedestal for the upper control arm. Okay, you remember just a moment ago when I said that I was going to tack in those uprights for the shock mounts? I should not do that. I should not tack those in place. I should fit them as close as I can and then clamp them or something, because guess what else we have to do right in that area? We still need to cut clearance notch into the frame rail for the coilovers. And I was going to cut that notch as soon as I located a piece of 1/8 inch steel tubing or steel pipe that's 4 to 4 1/4 ID. I haven't found that yet. I dug through the scrap bin and I didn't see anything there. I looked through my piles of stuff here. I don't have anything that big. So as soon as I find a piece of tubing or pipe that is appropriate, about an 1/8 inch thick wall, then I can notch the frame rail. I do need those plates to be there, clamped in somehow, because I need to take my fake shock, basically that square tube with the holes in it, and throw this on there and mark where I need to cut on the top of the frame rail and the bottom, and then I should cycle the suspension to its maximum and minimum heights and do the same, just to make sure that I don't do all this work and then box myself in a corner where I have to cut it all out again because I didn't consider the range of motion of, the shock's going to move just a little bit. That spring and shock, the coilover, is going to move just a little bit as the control arm and the suspension cycle. So I have to figure out how I'm going to hold that in place in the right spot and mark everything up. So that's really what I should do next. All right. So I kind of put myself in a corner here. I can't weld this on without, before notching this. I can't really orient this correctly because it's too finicky without being tacked in place. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to get really close. And I'm going to mark this frame so I know what I'm looking at. And then when I can get down to the steel supplier here that's kind of local, I'll get some material to make this notch. They have huge rem racks because they cut a lot of stuff for a lot of people. And they keep a lot of rems, and you can walk in there with cash and basically pay by the pound for bits and pieces of steel. So they also have aluminum and things like that. So let's just get this marked up here. I should get both of these on here. Where's my other circle? Here we go. Now a Sharpie, a nice pointy, unabused Sharpie. Put one above, one below. Now, chances are I'm going to pull all this off as soon as I put any weight on it, but let's get close here. I need a starting point. So this would represent really close to full droop. Oh man, we don't need much to clear at what is supposed to be our full droop. Okay, our desired ride height does not need any more clearance than full droop. How about if we're going the other way? This should be full compression. Wow, okay, so there's a potential that we do not need to notch the frame. I'm surprised. These are 3 3/4 inch diameter circles. The coil springs, I were told, are 3.55 inch diameter. Wow, I am okay with that. I am happy with that. I am feeling pretty good. If we just notch this flange, we could weld this thing in. Now, what's the worst case scenario here? Is that I made some kind of fairly large mistake and we need to notch out this frame in here. What's the worst that could happen? I would need to probably get in there with a torch or a plasma cutter to notch out. And it'd be a lot of die grinder work to smooth it out. And then welding would be not fun. But it's doable. Wow, guys, I am really tempted to simply cut this section of flange out between the uprights and call it good. I better check one more thing. I know there's a lot of clearance here for the upper control arm and all that, but let's just set it down. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I don't think this is going to be too wide for the control arm, which is what I was a little worried about. So, guys, I think we're in good shape. It's really tempting to get the welder out. Oh, one more thing I'm going to do to make this work just a little better. The frame is not level because we have about a 1 and 1.5 degree rake from rear to front. The frame rails are not perfectly parallel. And the, what was the other piece I was thinking? The cross member is not perfect. It's got a little twist in it. So these are really hard to position. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to tack a brace between these at that perfect dimension, which I believe is 4 1/4. and make sure these are square and everything. And then I will bring it back here. We'll slide it in. We will square it up. We'll make it plumb and level and square to the ground and the cross member from one side to the other, and make sure that this axis is parallel to this axis down here for the lower control arm, because that's what's going to determine if we're leaned one way or the other, in, out, front, back. So let's do that. I made a little 4 1/4 inch spacer. We got a piece of 4-inch square tube and a 1/4 inch spacer, and I trued it up on the table and tacked it together. So this is, they're where they're supposed to be in relation to each other. Now I've come in and adjusted the notches so we're right where we want them. And I put my center line back down the car again and put a vertical board in there so I could measure from that board out to here and be able to make sure that we're in line with the center line of the car. So we're good there. Now I can take this out. I can come in and cut my notch, take the primer off here and down here, and we can get welded in. And then all we have to do is repeat this whole process on the other side of the car.